One of the things that just blows my mind, and I will always find funny, is we are the ones, people on the right wing and all that stuff. We are the ones that are called grifters, like all the time. Like online leftists, so terminally online leftists have their favorite words like grifter, chud, incel, reactionary. You know those funny words. Reactionary is one of my favorite one. Oh, did I do something awful to you? And you responded. What are you? Some kind of fucking reactionary? I can't believe you're angry that I punched you in the face. Where are you? Some kind of reactionary? Like that type of stuff, man. I've got my eyes are burning. Welcome to summer. Summer and spring starting. Here comes the pollen. That's great. But the funny thing is these people, people like Hasan that they fucking like worship, don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. These are the people. Capitalism bad. Capitalism bad. Capitalism is awful. It's absolutely terrible. But even despite that, they have no fucking idea what capitalism actually is. Like Hassan, it doesn't take a lot to convince people that Hassan has absolutely no fucking idea what the hell he's talking about politically. This is the guy who's all yes, power to the people, blah, and all this type of stuff. We should help the poor and impoverished and all that. And then the man's like owns like a $3 million mansion and is driving around in a fucking Porsche, right? Like fucking even I possibly may make around the same amount of money as Hassan, and even I don't do shit like that, man. But the difference is, I could if I wanted to, and I wouldn't be a hypocrite because I'm not the one saying, "Oh, socialism, tax the rich, blah blah blah." For what he paid for his car and what he paid for his house, he could have fucking out in the middle, some flyover state, bought an entire fucking street worth of houses. Not LA prices, not city prices. Fuck that. Who wants to live in cities anyway? Some nice little like country town. He could have bought an entire street of fucking houses and put homeless people in them. Practice what you preach. The thing that he wants to make other richer people do by force. Through state force and state violence. But this is the one as well now. No doubt you've all heard about the baby formula shortage that's going around, right? Now, Hassan and his infinite wisdom. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's losing a lot of sleep over the fact that Sam Hyde's coming to get him, right? But in his infinite wisdom, he's blamed it on capitalism. Okay, so he's blamed the supply issue on capitalism, right? Capitalism is so wild that four companies control all baby formula. The only way that monopolies like that can exist is through government regulation. Basically, some companies get a little bit of a foothold, and then they will encourage some certain regulations that they have the financial ability and manpower and stuff to meet. But any new competitors that come onto the scene, they don't stand a hope in hell of making these regulations. They've not managed to establish themselves enough and build up enough capital. And what they'll do is they'll look at that, look at the regulations, and say, this isn't viable. Let's not bother going into this industry. And that's why four companies are able to control all of the baby formula. Now, doing stuff like that, regulations that mean that no viable market competitors can rise up, well, that's not capitalism. It's the opposite, in fact. Monopolization is not capitalism. If we had true capitalism, there would be fucking hundreds of baby formula suppliers, I can guarantee you. Basically, it turns out that when you remove all of the roadblocks when it comes to starting a business, more businesses get made. It's fucking weird that I know. Who would have fucking thought? Read a fucking economics. Read a fucking economics book now and again. The stuff they make overseas is not allowed to be sold here, even though EU standards are higher. Damn, I wonder why that is. Why is that? Why can't it be imported? Why? Is there like some kind of rule or perhaps a law, perhaps? So why can't it be imported? Because there's a government regulation in place that says that it can't. That's why. Capitalism is when, the government passes regulations over what commerce you're allowed to do. Yeah, definitely, Hassan. So one plant is shut down to avoid an FDA investigation. Everything collapses and the government has to fly the formula. And okay, now the FDA being a government organization that's going in and making sure everything is up to the standards of all of the regulations that the government sets. However, the funny thing about that is why do the regulations even exist when the people who are supposed to be subject to the regulations can just shut their plant down and avoid the investigation? So it kind of sounds like the regulations don't exactly do very much either. Now, obviously, you should, if you're, especially if you're a baby formula company, then you should make sure that your product is to the utmost of standards. However, what libertarians usually say is if your product is fucking shit and making people sick or like causing damage to babies, then what would happen is people would just say, well, fuck you, we're not using your product anymore. Your business absolutely collapses in itself, and they can use many of the other competitors who would be able to crop up and flourish if there weren't, these government regulations that makes it extraordinarily difficult for them to do so. So literally every single thing that Hasan listed in this fucking tweet was government regulation. And what does socialism and communism advocate for? Its central core tenets: complete absolute regulation of commerce and dictating what people can and cannot do with their capital, with their resources, or even just straight up seizing all of it and then distributing it among the masses. Redistribution of wealth, blah blah blah. But if there's one thing that socialism and communism does a lot, it's government regulation. It's regulation of capital, of what people are allowed to do with their labour, their commerce, their possessions, private property, capital property, all that other type of stuff, right? So basically, Hasan, he doesn't realise it yet, and I don't think he ever will. Hasan's actually angry about the very things that his own ideology wants, right? Basically, this is a tweet of Hasan being angry about socialism, but blaming it on capitalism. Because one take that I never ever expected Hasan to make was saying that capitalism is when the government won't let you do capitalism. Right? Capitalism is supposed to be the free market. Now I know this may come as a shock, but when you put regulations on a market, Hasan, it becomes less free. And it seems that by doing that, that can cause problems, as we're seeing here. The fact that there are only 4 companies in charge of the entire thing, well, you need to start asking the question is, why haven't any viable market competitors popped up? And the reason for that is that some of the regulations are so fucking mental that it becomes a completely unprofitable business to go down. The guys, the huge ones that are, Johnson and Johnson and all that type of stuff, they're already very, very well established. They can afford, they have massive conglomerate companies. They can afford to keep up with the regulations. None of the others can, but they're quite happy to pay that price because it's a small price to pay for no competition. Right? So why are there only 4 companies? Government regulation. Why are they not able to ship more in? Because of government regulations. Why did they just shut their factory down as part of government regulations? But it turns out that the government regulations in this case don't even fucking matter if they can just shut their factory down and avoid them. Right? So what you're really angry about, Hasan, is government regulation. Right? If we actually had, unregulated capitalism, none of these problems would exist. We would all have baby formula coming out our arses, right? It'd be everywhere, right? And it's amazing because we're the ones that get called grifters all the time. Hasan doesn't even understand his own ideology. He doesn't even practice it. He doesn't even practice it. Like, see if Hasan, I've said this so many times. See if he didn't. If he didn't have his mansion or his Porsche or some shit like that, and he lived in a little 1-bedroom studio apartment, but he used all his wealth and actually did buy a street, in some flyover state and filled it, just gave each homeless person a house, I would. All right, well done, well done. Okay, you are a true socialist communist. You actually do practice what you preach, right? That I would hold my hands up and I would say that I'd buy him a drink. I'd buy him a drink for holding true to his ideals like that. But he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. He walks around in fucking $2,000 t-shirts and all this other fucking bullshit, and he's Porsche, living in LA in his big fucking mansion, while saying, "Oh, you should tax the rich," blah blah blah. And what, man? Well, I want to raise it. I'm happy for me to pay more tax. Well, here's the thing, Hassan. You don't actually have to raise the tax rates for everyone else. You can pay as much money as you want to the IRS, right? You obviously have to pay your minimum tax rate, but you can pay over that as much as you want, like a donation to the tax reserves. I know. Do you think they're going to refuse it though? Is that the case? Do you think the tax man's going to refuse money? Of course he fucking isn't, right? But that's something that you can do, and you can do that off your own back without forcing everybody else to pay more. How about giving them the choice? How about giving them choice is a good thing? I thought all you guys were pro-choice. Well, I guess only in certain areas when it suits your political methods. It's something that you only extend to people who agree with you, which is, standard behaviour for socialists. But yeah, Hassan, you've no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You don't even understand your own fucking ideology, let alone the one that you claim to hate and are railing against, right? Without government regulation, this wouldn't have fucking happened. You made the arguments in your own tweet, right? But hey ho, whatever. Just keep making those donations on Twitch and all that. But yeah, we are the grafters.